Hey friend, how you doing?
Yo, what's up, dude?
You were showing me your teeth before we recorded. You want me to like check, make sure there's anything in there?
Yeah, am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Do I have
Yeah,
any
man.
do I have any boogers? Am I good?
You always do. It's
Hmm.
gross. It's gross.
I don't always have boogers. What are you talking about?
Always, dude. You're the snottiest dude I've ever met in my entire life. That is a fact. Don't even try to pretend like it's not.
My son, my son got that from me too. He's a boogery dude.
Yeah,
He
that's
does this
great.
like snort thing, like snorts up all of his boogers, and it's really gross. Like, come on,
This
dude.
this is we lost all our listeners just now. Just like that. Boom. Everybody logged off. My mom, your mom, and an auntie logged off. That's it.
3 listeners. Sorry,
They're
moms.
they're not gone. Sorry, moms, but you know how it is. You know how it is.
Us us friends
So
like to talk about
despite,
boogers and toots.
yeah, man, boogers and toots. I think that's a friend thing, that's a man thing. But let's talk about friendship. Let's talk about friendship. Let's move off of boogers as quickly as humanly possible. And let's talk about something else. Friendship. We're about to jump into friendship. So we just wrapped up Faith Month, which was phenomenal. Phenomenal experience for me. Our last call was super powerful. And now we're jumping into friends, which has for us traditionally been a pretty solid topic, because dudes in general seem to kind of suck at this friendship thing. And that's not just opinion, right? That's just not us talking about it. I'm not sure. I think this comes out this Friday, so maybe next Monday. We did an interview with Richard Reeves, which was absolutely incredible. Wrote an amazing book, but he also has some really thought-provoking videos out there, and one of them was on friendship. And I'll tell you the part, and it seems obvious, but when he said it, it really stuck with me. Like, we always know, like, the data supports there's a friendship recession. We know from the Surgeon General and relationships how important they are and how they're on decline, particularly with men. But I think the one thing I didn't focus on as much is this isolation. And what's fascinating is after we had that conversation, I had a call with a buddy of mine, just reached out to him, and one of the things he said, it wasn't even in the context of us talking friendship. But one of the things he said, he's like, man, when I just go through these periods, these challenging times, I just I just isolate. He said it, right? And so it was a very real data point. Um, and so I took that opportunity to pour into him and just be like, dude, we all do it, and I love you, and I would love to be a resource for you. Like, just call and just unload, man, because he's going through some stuff. And but it was that idea of the isolation, man. It was just it really hit me because it's more sad than not having friends. To me, being isolated and alone, there's more despair in that than not having friends. And I know it's semantics, but it made an impact. You know what semantics means, right?
No, can you explain that to me?
Just look it up later. It's just
Oh,
words
okay.
and just
Words and things. You're such a good friend. Um, this friendship recession. Say that a few more times.
the
Um,
friendship, the
fr
friendship,
fr
friendship secessions,
friendship
the friendship
recessions.
secessions.
In this video, Richard Reeves talks about some data points that are leading to friendship recession. It's really interesting, and I've never thought about it this way until um, there's a few other books that I'm reading right now. One of which is The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and there's some tie in there too. But if you think about it, let's just talk about military. Let's just talk about the life of a military family. You're going to a duty station, you make friendships. 3 years later, you leave, right? And you go somewhere else. You make new friendships. 3 years later, you leave. And the mobility that we live in right now, People are moving all the time, not just in the military, but just in general. Like you're moving locations for primarily a job, right? Most people move and go to a new place for a job, for a career. And so you're always changing, and that's normal now. That's common for people to do. That wasn't common, 50 years ago. Like you're born and raised in a location. Maybe you went off to college, but typically people would come back to your hometown and people would come back to the friendships that they had a long time ago and in a community that they've had for a long time. And so, moving around all the time, you're forced to have to like make new friends, but then you leave again. And so, I don't know about you, like I mean, you're pretty good at staying in touch with people, but there's only a handful of people like from my high school that I really ever talk to anymore. There's people, from the Naval Academy, like our classmates. There's a handful of people that I talk to. I rarely see them. I mean, I don't know the last time I've seen anybody from my high school in a long, long time. And so you have to really be intentional about like making that friendship happen. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I know like you've been pretty good about kept keeping in touch with some people, but still, it's really hard.
Yeah, and I also think I think one of the nefarious things about social media is that Facebook calls them friends.
Yeah,
And and why that came to mind when you're talking about it, I think it's a lot less overwhelming to look at the stats and realize like you're a pretty blessed dude if you have five really, really close friends. So what does that mean in application? What that means to me is that there are, and I've seen this in my life, like in the way that in the actions that I take, but what it means is there are five people that if you're lucky, there's five, but maybe there's one, maybe it's two, whatever it is. And for some people it's more. But there's a subset of people that I invest very heavily in, right? And with phone calls, with time, with effort, with making room for sacrifice in some places in order to invest in those relationships. And it's I think a lot of us fall into this trap and this lie that if we're not like if there's a bunch of those people or you have a lot of them, if you don't have a lot of them, then it's not really worth it. And really it could just be one person. Like you just have that one person because really by definition, if you're to not be isolated and alone, it's just one other person, right? Like just be with one dude and not your kids and not your wife, like that your ride or die. And the reason I highlight that is I think there's this idea and somewhat overwhelm in looking at, and I can't really relate with this, so I'm just kind of postulating here, but people like try to get the friends and the friend count up and the likes and the follows and all these things. And it's all fake, right? Like, I think I was listening to Dave Chappelle recently and he was telling a joke about being trashed on Twitter. And he said, but you know what? He has choice language for it. He's like, who cares? Twitter's not a real place. And like everybody's like clapping, like and that comment is so profound. It's not a real place. And I would argue that if you have, I don't even know how many friends I have on Facebook, and I'm gonna let you know this right now. I'm considering like signing off of Facebook again. But that being said, when you have thousands, these 1,500 friends, we say it all the time, but if you're really honest with yourself, it means something to you. And if Facebook meant something to me, it would mean something to me. I guarantee you it would mean something to me. And the likes, and if I posted, the likes mean something to me because it does mean something to me, the engagement on LinkedIn where I do care. Um, and so it gives a false sense of what's really needed for fulfillment. I believe it gives a false sense of what's really needed for fulfillment. But very few things are more fulfilling than like the other day when you and I met at the mountain bike and we met two other dudes and we're hugging. Like we're hugging with those dudes, right? And had some awesome conversation and spent time with those men. And it's just interesting to me that time commitment and that time. I would bet that if you were able to measure fulfillment and satisfaction, and there's a little scale and you could point it and shoot it, some person sitting online all day connecting with their quote unquote friends would never reach near the level of fulfillment that we had in a couple hour bike ride or a couple hour outing with our buddies. And so I say that all to say this friendship thing becomes very overwhelming because we think it's so hard to, and I don't want to oversimplify it. It's kind of hard to make friends, dude, but it's not really that hard.
Well, it takes an effort.
It takes an effort, but so does like posting and so does like engaging and commenting and all that. Like if you were genuinely interested in relationship, which I think we all are, you just have to admit it to yourself. If you cataloged all that time that you took and the effort that you took, time is effort that you took on those socials, and say you just shifted half of that, whatever that is for you. I don't know what that number is for you, half of that or a quarter of it. Even if you only spend an hour, say you, which is complete bullcrap for most people, but say it was an hour. If you shifted a quarter of that, you shifted 15 minutes of that, and you dedicated that to true connection, reaching out, making a phone call, or maybe like having a coffee, which is going to take you more than 15 minutes. But if you did that, I would be curious what the result would be, and I'd be curious how our mental health and our personal sense of joy and satisfaction and meaning and fulfillment would be if we did that and got more back to, yeah, it takes effort because it's a skill set to be social, right? And it's not a skill like good or bad, it's a skill like you have to practice, and ultimately other people love being invested in. And so that mutual investment into these, that maybe it's five, but I would say start with one, is really not that daunting. It's really not that daunting. And that could be the thing that changes everything for you. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be with a screen. It can be, hey, dude, I'd love to let's have a coffee. Let's meet up. I mean, I'm talking to my buddy Mikey. We've been friends for, I think he's probably one of the very few friends I've had longer than you. Um, I think it's like him, Scotty, and Joey, and a couple dudes that like I stay in contact with that I've known longer than you. Well, we're like trying to plan just a fly fishing, just us to go fly fish for a weekend. And he's in Cali, I'm here. But I'll tell you, every time I go to California, guess who I see? And every time he comes out here, who do I see? And when we can see each other, we and make that investment. And when we can't, then we find a time to go fly fishing and do a thing and whatever. And so yes, there's effort there. But if that's the only dude I'm investing in and making things happen, like that will be a more fulfilled life than if I'm isolated and just one dude, right? And I'm blessed beyond measure that I have a number of dudes like that in my life. And one day maybe you and I will get there.
Hey, another thing that was I thought really interesting that Richard talks about is one of the causes he says to friendship recession is he calls it workism or careerism, that we are so focused on our work and our careers that we have found identity in that, and that's all we do. Like he has some stats that like we work more hours than ever before. And I think a lot of us feel like we maybe have friendships in the workspace that you see in the office on a regular basis, or you go have, a beer with for happy hour afterwards, but it's not like real true connection and friendship. Um, but just this idea of careerism, workism has just taken over our lives, and it's causing this like real true friendship to kind of be put as a lower priority, which then gets kind of swept underneath the table. When we
Yeah,
saw
man.
that,
And for what, right? For what? Like, I mean, really, for what? What are you waiting for? Are you getting fulfillment in your work that much? And I will say, here's just a test. I don't know. There's no scientific data here. This is just something that popped in my head because I had this conversation with two friends last week, true friends. And my question was this: if you feel very uncomfortable asking this question, then you should question the level of your friendship. The question is, hey, dude, how's your marriage? How's your marriage? If the leap from, man, the weather, it's starting to get sunny again, and the grass is growing, and I got to turn my sprinklers back on, and but football season's right around the corner. If the leap from that conversation to how's your wife or how's your marriage is inconceivable to you, then that's a good indicator if the all the folks you're talking about are your friends, if they're really your friends, right? Like I can easily talk about that with my friends, easily. I oftentimes do, right? And so, you know, we should also stop we should also stop bastardizing the definition of what a friend is and really and what work means and like start just digging into these things, dude. That's what thing about I love about TKM is that in the month of friendship, we're going to talk about these things. We'll be like, okay, cool. Like one of the things we always ask guys, hey man, how many friends, like how many close friends do you have? And dudes would be like, oh man, I got like 7. I'm like, cool. When's the last time you saw them? Okay. When's the last time you talked to them? All right. And when you did, what did you talk about? All right. So do you really have friends? I don't know. I don't know. I'm very fond of that guy. Awesome. Have you told him that? What would happen if you did? Right? Like it's a very it's a very profound conversation, and friendship has lost that punch, man. It's like that, dude, to have a friend, to have a true friend, that dude that you could pick up the phone, whatever's happening in your life, you're married, whatever, and like I have to stay on your couch because I'm in a bad place. To have that is so powerful, dude. So powerful. And we've cheapened it. Oh yeah, I got 1,000 of those on Facebook. No, you don't. Like call one of them and see if they're your friends, see if they pick up. They're not gonna pick up. They don't care. They're just gonna like your post. And they're not even liking it. It's just a habit. They're desk scrolling and you came across their feed. And I'm not trying to be like so cynical about it, but I think some cynicism should be applied to the way that we look at these things in order to open the door and the avenue for something of depth and meaning and truly something that could change our lives for the positive and the better. And I'm speaking from experience from this, right? Like I'm speaking as a guy who has some freaking amazing friends and what it has done to my life. And you could probably speak from the other side as a guy who has no friends. I'm just kidding. You have one friend. I'm your friend. I love you.
I was trying to look up on my phone. I'm completely blanking on the title of the book that I actually gave to you uh, about friendship. Um, I, I gave it to you like as a gift for Christmas. I'm completely blanking on
Yeah,
the name of it. I was trying to look it up on
I'm
my
blanking
phone.
on it too.
Oh man,
Oh.
there's a quote in there that it's just so simple, and I've said it a couple times, but he says a friend is someone who's fully known yet loved anyways. And man, I think that's like spot on, right? Like I know everything. I mean, I know everything about you, right? And there's some stuff that like isn't that great, right? Like, but I love you anyways, just how you are. And I think that's really important to distinguish what a friend is, right? I know your intricacies. I know your goods, your bads, your uglies, your darkest, deepest desires, your wants, your needs, the type of person you are, your values. Like I know all that stuff because we have like deeper conversations than just the weather and football. I think that's really important. And you're not going to get that on Facebook. You're not going to get that, um, on a Twitter thread, right? You're not going to get that stuff. The deep, like, know fully who this person is.
And people want that. People want to be known. They just don't
100%.
know that I think the barrier is that most people think so. The other side of that equation is I know that you know me and I know that you still love me. And so there's a freedom in being in not feeling judged and being able to be honest. And so I think most people, the barrier to that relationship is that they think that when, oh, if they really know me, they're not going to like me. When what more than likely is going to happen is if they really know me, they're going to be like, oh yeah, me too, dude. Like that's what's probably going to happen, right? And so as we go into friendship, friend month in TKM, I would encourage anybody listening, hey, like take an honest assessment, right? Take an honest assessment and and at least know where you're at, and then define where you want to be with friendship, and look forward once the work stuff goes away, and once you made all the money that you wanted to make, and once you whatever it is that you think is important, quantify that stuff and then make a quantify and then I'm sorry, yeah, quantify it and then qualify it and be like, okay, is this what I want? And am I really truly happy with where I'm at? Because I tell you, one thing is true is the longer you wait, the harder it does get. That is a fact. Um, and so why not, you know, start today? Like, I mean, just and a lot of times it's as easy. I make it a joke all the time. I'm like, dude, I'd love to take you on a date to a cup of coffee, like to get to know somebody, to meet somebody, whatever, and just let them know that you want to invest in them. And some people will be receptive, some won't. And if they're not, then I mean, move on, man. Like, go find somebody else because your people are out there. It's just you might have to be the catalyst.
Yeah, dude.
And it's real. It has real consequences. It's we've talked about this in the past quite a bit, but it has very real consequences. So we keep talking about it. And if you don't believe me, read the Surgeon General. If you don't believe the Surgeon General, take a look at some of Richard Reeves' stuff and their studies. If you don't believe that, go look at the 80 plus year Harvard study. If you don't believe that, there's a TED talk that I'd reference for you about being wrong, about being wrong. Look at that because you're wrong. You just the data's there. There's no more excuses. You can't at some point you're in denial and you're lying to yourself, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Look at the documentary. Watch the documentary on Netflix about blue zones and why people are living to 100 years old because they have real relationships, right? They have friends, they have family. There's something there. And that book that I was referencing is by Justin Whitmore Early, titled "Made for People." It came out last year. Fantastic book about friendship, about godly friendship, right? About Jonathan and David type friendship, about like brotherly love. That's the type of friendship we're talking about.
Yeah,
It
buddy.
takes work. It takes vulnerability. It takes you potentially being the one that makes the invite, that does the reach out, that opens yourself to maybe saying no, to being the guy that's awkward. Um, and, but it's all worth it, man. It's all worth it. What was the quote from Ben Killoy? He said, um, about the number of hellos you say.
I think he said the number of my opportunities is proportional to the number of hellos that I say, right? So yeah, I mean, and that's, dude, I can't tell you how many in at the last couple soccer games, last couple weeks, how many real estate agents I've met, how many brokers I've met, um, and it's just simply at like the dudes have been at the game every time. I needed a lawyer for to close on this gym. And there's a guy, I've seen him a ton. I'm like, went up and said, hey, dude, how's it going? I had no idea he was a lawyer. No clue.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, oh, you're Drew's dad. What do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a lawyer. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then like we got our connection through a soccer mom lawyer connection, right? Like to close a deal. So it's pretty fascinating how those things tend to happen, and it will never happen without hellos. And it's
Sure.
not that hard. Hey, what's up? I'm David.
Yeah.
What's your name?
So here's a
I
challenge.
want
Hey,
to be my Won't
Make
be
a
my
list.
friend.
Make a list of some of your old friends that used to hang out with it. Maybe it's high school, college, maybe it's an old military command, an old place of work. Reach out to them, send them a text, make a phone call, pick up the phone, give them a call, tell them you're in town, or ask them if they are in town to go grab a coffee or go do a hike or go do something fun. Like make time for friendship, put it on your calendar. It's important.
Well, yeah, dude, you recently for the last couple of months have been sending put on your calendar to send out 3 texts a day, right?
That's
And
right.
you've had some pretty awesome conversations from that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I've not done that. I love that.
Yeah. Here's and I'll give it here. Like put on your calendar, send 3 text messages a day. And literally just find someone like comes to mind, go through your Rolodex on your phone and just send them a text. Hey man, thinking about you today. Hope you're doing great. Haven't talked to you in a while. That's it. You might not get a response. You might get a great response, which leads to a phone call, which leads to a coffee date, which leads to best friend status. Who knows?
Yeah, that's happened for you 0 times. Anyways, take a challenge, do something, take action, get some friends. You won't
Shit.
regret it. See you.